Good morning, everyone. Hey, John Lennon sang to Yoko, "Don't let me down." I like our lyrics better, that he will never, ever let us down. What a great anthem to remind ourselves of in the morning. Glad you're here. Love these times, miss these times. It's great to be back together doing these times. I have with me two things, my Bible and my notebook. My Bible for obvious reasons, my notebook so I don't forget things I learn. I always carry my notebook with me because I'm always learning new things, and I've always had a tendency to forget new things, even though I say, I'm going to remember that. I really can't. And so to take the load off and the burden off my brain, I just commit it to paper so I can review it later. I would encourage you to do the same today, because we happen to have somebody who's so excellent at talking about what we do as leaders. And we're privileged to have Brad here. He's been with us before on a few occasions, and he ran Catalyst, one of the premier leadership training organizations. And this is what he is committed to. This is what God has gifted him for. He's good at a lot of things, including golf. I found that out yesterday. But he's really great at this God-given task of training. So, Brad, thank you for coming all the way and being with us today. We're stoked. Please welcome Brad Lomenick.
Well, it is great to be with you all. I feel like I'm family. Can I be family? Can I be part of the family? Maybe I'm the maybe I'm the leadership development director in training. Or in residence. Is that, can I use that title? I'll put that on my LinkedIn and MySpace. Some of you are like, MySpace? It's still around, right? Really? So you have something in front of you, and I'm going to talk about leadership, and this is going to be a deep dive. So I need you to put your leadership cape on, if you would. And this is not necessarily going to be a Bible study, but it is going to be something I hope will be helpful for you. And this is breathed from Scripture, but I want to get really practical with you as a leader. And let me remind you, first of all, that every one of you are a leader. Who's the most recent hire, by the way? Who's the most recent person added to the team? Who would that? Matt's pointing at somebody over here. Who's that? Charles? Charles? Who's Charles? Awesome. So Charles is equally as much of a leader, an influencer, a change agent, an impactor as those who are at the top of the organization. Pastor Skip, right? Now you got to believe that. Some of you are like, I don't know, Brad, like that. No, it's real. It's really true that every one of you have the ability to impact, to influence, to make change, to make the organization better, and it's really up to us. So this is us. This is we. This is the they. And before we jump into the fill in the blanks, let me just give you another maybe a nugget of inspiration. This has been a hard year, right? I mean, it's been hard. For some of you, it's been harder than for others. Some of you have had loved ones you've lost. Some of you have never gone through something like this where you've had so much weight on you. And I just want to remind you, one, that God is in control, right? We know this is true. But two, that the church, like the Big C church and the local church, like Calvary Albuquerque, is advancing. I mean, never before, leaders, have we ever had a year, perhaps, in the history of the world where more people heard about Jesus. Now, it's been tough. It's been hard, difficult. But just think about if we would have been sitting in this room in February of 2020, and somebody would have said, what would it look like for us to have, in May of 21, somewhere in the vicinity of 80,000 people logging on to Calvary Online? We would have said, oh, that's not even possible. Like, we got to hire a whole team. We got to, like, change everything. We got to, right? That happened. It's happening. And this is true at all kinds of churches across the U.S., around the world. Never before, in a 14-month window, perhaps, in the history of the world, have more people heard about Jesus. And again, we're hearing all the stats, everybody's 30% down in attendance, and we're not even sure what happened to that 30% of people. Where are they? Did they just disappear? Are they going to other churches? And that's something we need to wrestle with. But just to remind you that never before have we seen such a move of God. And I'm inspired by that. I don't know about you. I mean, there's a lot of weight on us, on all of us, but allow yourself to just breathe that in. And to know that arguably, again, we're setting at the precipice of perhaps what might be the next 12 to 14 months of the greatest evangelism move in the history of our world. So just take that in, soak it in, be inspired by that. Don't let the enemy have a part of your mind right now that says, I should be frustrated, I should be depressed, I should be anxious because everybody else is. The church is the hope of the world, right? So our job as leaders is to understand that we've been through some difficult things, but at the same time to have vision and perspective that says there's hope. There's possibility here. And this is for all of us. Again, it's not just for those of us at the top of the organization. It's for many of you who look around and go, well, what can I do? Well, you're already doing it. You have perhaps impacted more people in the last year through this church than ever before. And so I just want to remind you of that as we start. Okay, here, let's dive into some of these fill in the blanks. Here's what the big idea is here. Leading up. The thing about leadership that is true is that leadership does flow downhill, but leadership also flows uphill. And wherever you are in the organization, you have the ability to impact your peers. You have the ability to impact all the volunteers and the people on your teams, obviously. But you also have the ability to impact people who are above you, who are your boss. And this is really what I want you to think about. How do I impact the person or the leader or the leaders that I work for? Because great organizations, this is happening. Everybody in the organization feels like they have the ability to impact up, down, and across. Up, down, and across. And sometimes we think, well, the only way we can have impact is down. And sometimes we can impact our peers. But really, Brad, can I actually lead up to my manager, to my boss, to my boss's boss, to my boss's boss's boss, to my boss's 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 boss? Yes, you can, and that's what we want to talk about. So what got us here won't get us there. That's the first fill in the blank. And this is context building. What got us here won't get us there. We're setting at a good place right now as Calvary. We have some momentum, right? We're seeing things happen. But what got us here and what got you here today won't necessarily get you to a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. Growth requires change. That's the next fill in the blank. And again, this is just context building. I'm just building context for you to think about this. Growth requires change. Healthy things grow. Therefore, healthy things change. Now, some of you love change. Some of you, if you could put on your LinkedIn, you would be like the chief change officer, right? Because you eat change for breakfast. Lord bless you, all two of you. The rest of us, we hate it. We don't like change. We want it to be normal, right? That's what we hear all the time in culture. Boy, I just hope things go back to normal. I hope we go back to normal. I hope we get back to what it was before. Well, reality check, it's not going back. We're not going back to what it was before. Hybrid church is now where we sit, right? So growth, if we all want growth, which we all do, right? Well, we all want health, then we have to lean into change. And so the first part of your skill set as a leading up type of leader is that you embrace change and adaptability. One of the greatest things you can do as an employee right now is to be willing to lean into change. Don't be the leader who says, yeah, again, if I'm honest, I just want to go back to the way it was. You have to look forward and say, I'm willing, although it's hard, I'm willing to embrace this reality that we all want to grow, therefore I have to be willing to lean into change. Great leaders are great change agents. That's the next fill in the blank. Great leaders are great change agents. In fact, the definition, Skip mentioned I ran catalyst. The definition of catalyst in the dictionary is it's a force that creates change but leaves no residue of itself. That's what a catalyst is. A catalyst is somebody who embraces change and actually sees that their job, their responsibility is change, but it's not about you. That's what I want to be. I want to be a change agent. So great leaders are great change agents. Now, let's dive practical for a second on some of these next ones. And this really is around, if you want to give a bucket, if you're thinking like, Brad, I need some hooks here, I'm going to give you 8 things. Okay, you see all these fill in the blanks, but there are 8 kind of big buckets to this idea of leading up. The first big bucket was that you're adaptable. That's what we just talked about. So if you're writing notes in there, just put adaptability or the ability to pivot. That's the first piece of leading up. The second piece of leading up is this premise of curiosity. And that's, again, the big bucket. Number 2 is curiosity. So some fill in the blanks around curiosity. A constant learner with a lean-in posture and spirit. So if you're going to be a curious leader and you're going to lead up to the people that you work for, you're a constant learner. As Skip said, he walks around. If you want to play at this level, leaders, you better have your notebook. You better be walking around literally and figuratively with a notebook, a moleskin, your phone out, the old yellow pad. I don't care what it is. That's what a lean-in leader is. A learner is somebody who walks around and you're just short of annoying as it relates to your taking notes on everywhere you go. One, because we know that God speaks to us in weird places, but also that everybody is a classroom. When you're a leading up leader, the best way for you to many times create credibility with your boss is to have that posture that is this. Whenever you're around your boss, you're leaning in. And even if you're not even taking notes, even if you're writing your grocery list, just the posture that says, I'm with you. That says I'm for you. Here's what doesn't say I'm for you. You know what? This is a lean out leader. Yeah, I'm really not interested. Now, you may not be saying that, but you're saying that. If you're in that one-on-one meeting and your arms are crossed and you're leaning back and you're looking around and you haven't taken a note in 6 weeks in that meeting, right? Just the premise that you lean in. That's a learning spirit. The next thing is this. Hungry leaders are great question askers. So if you're going to be a curious leader and you're going to lead up well, you have to be a great question asker and have a constant curiosity and willingness to learn from anyone. I love listening to leaders who are sages, and all the sages that I know, those in their 4th quarter, who we all kind of look at and go, if I could be them one day, I promise you every single one of them, when they talk about the characteristics that they find in themselves, but also in other leaders they admire, curiosity and question asking will always rise to the top. So this is great news for us because I'm a knucklehead. At the end of the day, like I am a chief knucklehead, right? I don't have all the answers, but I can be a really good question asker. This doesn't take skill, doesn't take know-how, doesn't take intellect, doesn't take IQ. So part of your job in leading up is you want to get really good at asking questions. How do I ask a great question, Brad? Start with this. Tell me more. I mean, that's a great question to ask. Tell me more. I mean, I'm the annoying guy in 10B on the plane, and 10A is like, please stop. But I know this is true. this is not just a great way to lead up in your organization and to your boss. It's actually perhaps the best way for us to outreach in today's culture. Because everybody loves telling their story, leaders. Everybody loves walking away from a conversation where they did all the talking. So the people who are walking into Calvary, perhaps the best way we can connect with them is to actually just ask them a really good question. Because it pulls them in. It says, I care about you. So great leaders are great question askers. Focus on being interested. This will make you interesting. We've heard this before. If you're interested, automatically, you become interesting. The more questions you ask, the more you dig into somebody's story, the more they lean in. The more they go, man, I really like Joe. And I learned this early on. I worked on a guest ranch in Colorado. Some of you know my story. Like, I rode horses. Now I wear skinny jeans. Like, Wrangler jeans are the original skinny jean, by the way. Anybody rocking the Wranglers in the house? You know, Wranglers, my brother back here, you wearing Wranglers right now? But you know, Wrangler jeans, they put the seam, this is a little like dinner party helpful conversation. Wrangler jeans, the reason like cowboys and bull riders and people who ride horses wear Wranglers is the seam is on the outside of the thigh, because when you're on a saddle, you don't want the seam on the inside because it'll rub your leg like really the wrong way. So there you go. Wrangler jeans, the reason everybody wears Wranglers in the horse industry or cowboying industry is because seams on the outside. But when I worked at Lost Valley, I was a head wrangler. I rode horses all the time with really like wealthy families and people of influence who would come there to this 5-star guest ranch. Nate's been there several times. And the only opportunity I had to actually build any credibility or connection with people, because they're like, you're a wrangler, Brad, was for me to focus on being interested in their story. And so I would go out on a horseback ride for 2 hours with the CEO of Arthur Anderson, and we would come back from that 2-hour horseback ride, and it didn't always go this way, but many times it did. Hey, Brad, your name is Brad, right? It's Brad. Yeah, it's Brad. Man, I would really like to hire you. Well, okay, we're in New Jersey, and I'm the CEO of a $30 billion company, and I don't even know what your major is. I don't even know what you want to do in life. But why was that CEO saying to me, I want to hire you after 2 hours? Because I did this. I just asked them questions. And I would follow up and say, well, tell me more about that. Well, how did you learn that? Well, what do you think about family these days? What are some of the issues you wrestle with as a CEO of a big company? And I'm just listening, and I'm being interested. I'm not telling him my story. And we get back, and all of a sudden he says, I want to hire you. I don't even know what you do. I don't even know what your major was. I don't know anything about you, right? I shortcutted the process of credibility building because of the ability for me to ask a good question. So this is a superpower. It is like a shortcut to influence with people even before you should have influence with them. Anybody have a question on that? Because we're talking about questions. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. Sorry? Tell us more. Good question, right? And here's the thing, leaders, like, just start asking questions. Don't worry about having to ask the best question. Just start leaning into people. The more you pull somebody's story out of them, again, with your boss, with your neighbor, with your family member, with your kids, it doesn't matter. The more you pull their story out, the more influence you have in their life. It's a true thing. Okay, let's go to the next one. This one really is around execution. So the first was adaptability. The second is curiosity. The third bucket is being an executor. Now, I don't mean like you're killing people. I mean that you get things done. In fact, on your LinkedIn or your MySpace or your, wherever, you might want to go ahead and put you're the CEO. CEO at Calvary. Well, what is that? You're the chief execution officer. Not the chief executive officer. You're the chief execution officer, because we all On our job descriptions and on our assignment page, we are all executors. So execution is a key differentiator. That's the fill in the blank there. If you want to be great, if you want to lead up to people that you work for, just be this, be an executor. Be a great finisher. Be a great finisher. Move an idea from concept to completion. Again, this doesn't require you to be smarter. It doesn't require you to have more experience. It doesn't require you to have more on your title. It doesn't require you to have the corner office. This is what great teams have, great finishers. And sometimes in the church and nonprofit world, we have a lot of great ideas, right? And we should. We're the most creative agency. We're the most creative people in the world because we follow Jesus. Like Jesus injects into us, the Holy Spirit gives us creativity. What we have to make sure is that all those ideas that we went to Starbucks and thought up, that we actually move them into the end zone. Don't be an organization or don't be a leader who everybody goes, well, you know what? Remember that great idea 2 years ago? Oh, man, everybody loved it. We were in that concept meeting and creative meeting, and everybody thought this is it. And then, Sandy took it, and then Sandy left, and then Joe took it, and Joe got it to about the 30-yard line, and then everybody goes, well, whatever happened? I don't know. We punted, right, to use a sports analogy. And that's okay. We don't have to take everything to the finish line, but let's be leaders who commit to completion. So finish it. Get it done. And this is the way that, again, you create credibility for yourself in the organization. Lead up. This is another big one. Lead up by being an anticipator. Hello. I promise everybody who is in a leadership role is amening me under my breath or under their breath right now. We want anticipators on our team. Know what your leader needs before they ask. So here's your job as a leading up kind of leader, as an anticipator, is you have to do the homework of figuring out what does my leader actually need before they ever tell me. Okay. So what does that require, Brad? That requires you to have the mindset that says, I'm going to go ahead and finish things even if I don't have what? Permission, right? The anticipator is somebody who says, I'm going to be so focused on making my leader better. And by the way, that's the next fill in the blank. If we want to put that one up. Make your leader, when you anticipate, you make your leader better. Period. Oh, wait, that's part of my job description here? Yes, it actually is. You make your leader better, then you are a valued employee. So anticipation says, I'm looking around for ways to make my leader better. And here's what we have to know about this idea of making my leader better and anticipating is I have to be an initiative taker. That's the next fill in the blank. Take initiative. Ooh, Brad. I don't know about that. Because last time I took initiative and, well, maybe you took the wrong initiative. Maybe you jumped way too far out in front than you should have. Maybe you made a $20,000 decision, right? That's not a smart decision around anticipating. So there are smart and dumb ways to take initiative and to anticipate. Don't pay your dumb tax by saying, well, somebody told me that I should anticipate and ask forgiveness more than permission, right? Okay, let's be smart. You're smart. You're smart enough to know what does it look like to take smart initiative? What does it look like to anticipate in a smart way? So what you're looking for is you're trying to find ways to make your leader better, take things off their plate. I mean, truly, here's a good question to ask your boss, manager. How can I help you be able to focus on the things that only you can do? That's a great question to ask your boss. And then next time you see them, the following week or the 2 week later or the month later one-on-one meeting, you come back and you say, okay, I've been paying attention. I know that you gave me these 4 things that I could do to make you actually better at what you do, and I went ahead and took care of those. Is that okay? And your boss is going to be like, aha, you're crowned greatest employee, right? This is just, again, it's blocking and tackling around being a great leader who leads up. So you are taking initiative. You are asking forgiveness more than permission. You are looking around. But your mindset, again, has to be that I'm going to make my leader better. I'm going to make my leader able to do the things that only they can do. Let me go to this next one. Your leader sees things that you don't. So honor is believing the best and not assuming the worst. Everybody talks about honor and leadership. And, we've heard some of the stories in church world, and we won't get into those, but we all got like different perspectives on honor, right? Some churches, when the grand poobah walks in the room, everybody stands up and they don't sit down until he or she sits down, and okay, that's fine. But here's one way I think you can honor your leader is by believing the best in them. When you have a bad one-on-one meeting and you feel like they were short with you and you feel like they were not necessarily like life-giving to you, what's my way that I can honor them? I walk out of that meeting and go, you know what? Something is going on with them that I can't see. So therefore, I'm going to believe the best and not assume the worst. I'm going to believe, something's going on. I'm not going to believe that, well, they're just out to get me. They're just out to protect their turf and they don't want me jumping in. I don't believe that. Proper honor is that I believe the best in my leader. So they see things that you don't. They carry weight. I mean, this is so important, leaders. Your leader and your leaders, again, your boss, but your boss's boss and your boss's boss's boss, they are carrying weight that you will never appreciate or understand. So part of our job is to have empathy for the weight they're carrying. They see things, they're carrying things, they're thinking about things that you're not right now. So especially for some of you who are not just younger, and I love you, all of you who are younger, but there's a little bit of a lean right now with some younger leaders that they start to go cynical really fast. You got to be aware of that, young leader. You have to watch out for that danger zone. Because automatically sometimes today as leaders we think, well, I'm just going to jump. I had one bad meeting with my boss where I felt like they didn't empower me, and now I'm just going to go jump to the next organization. Be careful. Be careful. Because again, they may have just had something the night before that was really heavy. And they're walking in with that, and then you got a little bit of it, right? So again, part of my job as somebody who's leading up well is to then figure out, well, how can I help them through that? Well, I can pray for them. I can actually ask good questions. I might go back. I might do a reroute, an hour later and come back and go, hey, you know what? I'm for you. I'm for you as my leader. And I just wanted to make sure that, is there something going on? Is there something that happened? Because I want to be a leader who leads up, and I want to anticipate. How can I help you with some things that might be happening, right? That's the posture we have to have. Not, well, I'm out of here, man, right? They didn't empower me. I don't feel good about that meeting. Be careful, right? Just be careful of that. Cynicism is so toxic. Bitterness is toxic. It kills organizations. It kills cultures. So part of your job is to understand that you have to believe the best. A problem solver and solution creator. That's the next fill in the blank. This is around executing and leading up. I solve problems. I create solutions. I don't create problems and delay solutions. And I mean, nobody ever in the history of church has ever had a gossip train, right? We've never had a gossip train in the church, right? Skip's laughing, yeah. We've never had that, the holy huddle after the meeting. This happens all the time. I mean, when you get people involved, drama just shows up with a capital D. So part of my job in this realm as a problem solver is to take the mindset that says, well, I'll just go find a solution. I'll just go deal with that problem. It doesn't say I'm going to just go talk about it and stir it up over here on the side. We have a lot of stirrers of the drama pot in our worlds. And I know, again, Calvary, you guys are, blessed, so you don't have any of this happening. But I'm just speaking on behalf of friends, at other churches that this might occur. You're a problem solver. You are responsible. I can count on you. That's what you want said about you. I'm responsible. If I give you a project, this is a leading up mentality. If I give the project to Matt, everybody knows, it's going to get done. If I give it to Jackie, I don't have to worry about it anymore, right? Compared to the other side, which is, this might be the last time we're going to give it to Bill. I don't know who Bill is, but Bill, we love you, right? Don't be the leader on the team that everybody kind of goes, boy, they have great ideas. Man, there's just all kinds of potential. But I'm concerned about their ability to carry through. Go the other direction, which is, every time we give them a project, they crush it. Every time that we count on them, they come through. This automatically makes you valuable. It helps you to have more influence. It's going to raise you up to new levels, new roles, right? You're going to proceed and actually move forward in the organization, compared to there's something on you that we just can't get over yet. You're responsible. I can count on you. Be the leader you wish you had. I mean, this is not my phrase. We'll just give it to John Maxwell, because basically everything goes back to John Maxwell in leadership, or Andy Stanley, or one of these guys, or Jesus. Let's just throw Jesus in there. But be the leader you wish you had. Some of you, again, you get pains in your stomach thinking about your one-on-one meeting. And I mean, again, this is true. It's true in every organization, whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's marketplace, whether it's church. But part of my job is to be the leader I wish I had and start leading up in such a way to my leader or my manager that they automatically now start to mirror me. We can actually make the leader better who we work for. This is part of your job description. Okay, let me stop there. Any thoughts, questions, comments, suggestions? We're going on to 5 in just a second.
Just didn't want to miss something.
Come on. Anybody have a thought, question? Good. Thank you. Yeah. This is practical again. Like, this is blocking and tackling. Yes, sir.
What you brought up about people love to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
If you give them that opportunity, you get to learn from them things that you never could experience before. And it's so easy to do because we're human beings, and I want to tell you how great I am.
Every time. Every time. It doesn't matter who it is either. I mean, I'll throw out a humble brag here. Skip, you've probably been to the White House like 20 times. A few times, yeah. The first time I ever went, and the only reason I got invited, again, chief knucklehead, was I was running Catalyst. I had a big organization that I had influence over. The first time I went, I'm thinking, and I probably told this story last time I was here, so if I did, forgive me, but when I went, everybody in the room at this breakfast were heroes. And I'm in my late 20s at this point. These are all heroes of the faith. I sat down at my table, I sat down next to somebody who I'm like, oh my gosh. I grew up listening to this person on the radio. They've probably influenced me more in my following Jesus than anybody, in my life. And I'm like, what am I going to say? Well, I'm a knucklehead. And I'm thinking, okay, Brad, just be really interested. Just be really interested. Just be really interested. So I go deep. I go all in. for an hour, I promise you, all I did was just pepper this person with questions. Peppered them. Tell me like how you get to the finish line. You know, what are the things you struggle with? Give me your greatest like achievement in life. I mean, I'm going. And an hour in, when we all are done with this breakfast and the president said something, you know, you go through all that, we get up, and now this is the weird part, is everybody's now going to go say hi to their buddies, which I don't have any buddies in the room. And this guy grabs me and he's like, Bart, that's Brad. Bart, Bubba, come with me. He grabs me by my arm, like, you know, like elderly people like to do. And he pulls me with him as he goes around the room and says hi to all of his buddies. Hey, so-and-so, come here. I want you to meet Bill. Bill, it's Brad, but that's cool. Bill, tell him what you do. Tell him. And for the next hour, I'm just getting catered around, and he can't even remember my name. Why? Why did I have so much influence? I was interested. That was it. I wasn't like trying to get my story in. I wasn't thinking this is my one shot. I gotta. No, I'm just leaning in going, I want to hear what you have to say. I'm honoring you because you have something valuable that I want to receive from you. And it was just, again, another lesson for me of the best way to get influence is to just ask people to share more. Nate?
What are the top 5 questions you ask a leader that you want to learn from and grow from?
Well, let's think practical in an organization. Let me give you a couple in an organization. And this could be either for you with your boss or you with the team or the person that works for you. What are you seeing that I'm not seeing? That's a good one to ask. How can I serve you? And again, these are practical more inside of an organization. How can I serve you? What is something I've done that you've noticed I need to change? Or what have I said? What we're trying to get is what we're trying to do with a lot of this inside of our organization is we're trying to help them actually lead us. What we're doing all the time is we're saying, I need to give you more permission to speak truth back into me. So it's that idea of what are you seeing I don't see? What have I done that I need to do better? What have I said recently that might have offended you or might have made you feel uncomfortable? Because so many of us, we have blind spots, and the reason they're blind spots is because we can't see them. And so part of our job in an organization is to give people, again, who work for me or that I work for, to be able to speak truth back to me. So that would be from a practical side inside of an organization.
Outside organization, you're introduced to a leader that you highly respect,
Yep.
value. What are your top 5 questions you ask that person to become a better leader yourself?
Yeah, tell me more about your story. I mean, that one's so broad, you can go anywhere. And this is true, like if I'm meeting somebody I admire or I'm meeting Joe in 10B next to me, in Delta Comfort. So tell me more about your story. What are some things you're proud of? You always go family. Family gets you deep quick. So it could be, tell me more about your family, tell me about your kids, brag on your spouse. What did you learn from your father or mother that you're still carrying today? Those are always, anything around the family is always good because it shortcuts the process. That's 3. I'll give you one more. You said 5, but I'll give you 4. And then what are some things that you're dreaming about? And that, again, for me, that one always goes to, it goes to vision. It goes to like the things that make you come alive. Now, if I got a 2-hour flight from Atlanta or 3-hour flight from Atlanta to LA, now all of a sudden what I've done with that person at 10B, Joe doesn't realize that I am an assassin for the gospel right now. And so he doesn't see the next question coming, which is, what do you think your purpose is? So that's like level 2. I'm going now, purpose. What do you think the meaning of life is? Tell me about some of the things tell me about your spiritual life. Like, spiritual life is in vogue right now. We can ask anybody in the world about spiritual life, but where I'm going is I'm sharing the gospel. And it pretty quickly, hopefully, I'm going to get, as we're 30 minutes out, I've got Joe crying. I've got Joe laughing. I've got Joe being proud. And now I'm going to appropriately, again, bring Jesus into the conversation. And you guys know, this is what we do. The power of question asking is perhaps the greatest, again, superpower in sharing the gospel. Because when people know that we're interested, they give us permission to speak truth into them. And it's always true, I've found. So,
One more question.
yeah.
How do you find the balance between honoring and being perceived as swarmy or flattering?
In what context?
In honoring the leader, honoring everyone, there's a balance in between showing honor.
Yeah.
And that person's really honorable, and then being that person is like, that person's just kind of a piss up. They're just always flattering, kind of swarmy in how they are around you because they want something.
It's a good question. Yeah. So the question is, how do you? What's the balance between being honoring and a little bit like swarmy,
Yeah, swarmy,
over flattering?
where people know you want something from them.
Yes. It's the difference between being a networker and a connector. So networker, like, you guys ever been attacked by the multi-level marketing person at the grocery store? So networkers are transactional. It's all about them. They have their agenda in mind. They're setting you up for their thing. Networkers are short-term minded. They think, what can I get out of this that's going to benefit me? A connector, or a true honoring person. And I love when somebody says, are you a networker, Brad? I say, no, I'm a connector. Connectors are others focused. It's about them. They make somebody else the center of the story. They're long-term minded. They know that if I put two people together and I get out of the way, there's value in that. So that's the way I would think about it. Is I don't want to be the swarmy transactional networker in the room who is just buttering me up. And we all can think of, again, people who you're like, oh, got somebody in my mind. Compared to the person who they're for you, and they're honoring you by saying, you're the center of the story. And whatever I need to do in order to make you better, it's not about me. And great salespeople, the most persuasive salespeople in the world, they're more connectors than they are networkers. Because they know if I add value, at some point that value will come back to me. But it's not about the short-term minded focus on me getting the transaction. It's about the long-term. Somebody else had a question.
Would you recommend the same approach you're talking about honoring our leaders, but would you recommend the same approach for honoring our peers and the younger generation? You talked about them leaving, so would you recommend that same approach, or would you recommend a different approach for the younger generation as well as for our peers?
That's a great question. Really good question. You've been listening. I don't know. That's a really good question. Yes. Honor definitely flows up, down on the cross. I think it's different when I was talking about honoring up, meaning that leaders above you are seeing and feeling and carrying things you don't see. So to believe the best but not assume the worst. But it is true that if I hire the right person on the team, young or old, and let's just assume that the younger leader is, down in the organization, right? Is that fair? Then my job is still to honor them by believing the best and not assuming the worst. So that does flow up, down, and across in terms of I'm going to believe that because you said, Nate, I really would like to go and work at Starbucks all day long. I'm not going to be in the cube, but I know that I'm going to get it done. So part of my job now as as your leader is to think, well, I'm going to believe that you actually will. And that you're not just like, checking your Robinhood account while you're at Starbucks and you're updating your LinkedIn profile because you're looking for another job. I'm going to believe that is true, but so many times it comes back to, have we actually hired the right person? And, self-leadership, being somebody who is leading myself well is true across all of this. Like the concept that I am the greatest leader of myself. And this is not Tony Robbins, like I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that you are in charge, all of us, we all are in charge of our personal development. And if our standard is so high, again, that we always will sort of go past the standard of expectation, then this is built over time. So young leaders, the difference on this question, and again, really good question, the difference for you as a young leader or somebody new on the team is that you're going to need like maybe 5x the number of validations for the person who leads you to maybe say, okay, now I'm giving you permission, right? And that's okay. Like that's part of earning the right to be heard, or earning the right to sort of, work from where I want to, or earning the right to be able to lead up. So you might have to have a few more wins where you have validated that I am a self-starter, I am going to lead myself well. You don't have to worry about me like working on something else. And don't get offended or frustrated the first time that somebody says, okay, let's talk about were you actually really doing the work you were supposed to do, right? So if you're a young leader, let that happen a few times. Don't be offended if somebody asks you that, because you might have to prove it 5 or 10 times more than somebody who's been around for a while. That's a good question, though. You guys are asking good questions. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Can our empathy become enabling? Man, you guys are bringing the thunder. I don't know. Skip, what do you think? I'm going to do the old whoop. Yeah, this is. Can our
Yes.
Can our empathy become enabling?
It can. Just like anything can morph into anything. I think that we have to go back to the text that I preached on Sunday, with some have compassion, making a difference, making a distinction. And I think creative question asking is to understand that, to kind of determine motivation and how far am I, what am I going to offer that's going to help the person versus what's going to have that person fall back on something that is just enabling to them. So part of a relationship is mutual growth, and a good leader will be able to make a distinction so that you're giving that other person some tools to, even if you are enabling them, to enable them to grow and get better than they were before, in short.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay?
Yeah, and by the way, this idea of empathy, emotional intelligence, it is big time in vogue right now. Across all spectrums,
Yes.
industries, categories, everybody is now sort of saying, again, like your IQ
Yep.
is for the most part set, but your EQ and empathy can actually grow significantly over the course of your life. And
good.
so much of this goes back to just having the ability to connect with people. Like this is people development or friendship development or being around people one-on-one. But sometimes like we forget that people just want to feel like somebody heard their story.
So what do you do to grow emotionally on a personal level?
From an emotional intelligence, yeah. I'm always trying to think Well, I read a lot of stuff on emotional intelligence, and I read a lot. I read a wide range of things. Daniel Goleman is kind of the gold standard of the emotional intelligence movement. But even people like Brene Brown, Brene is now like she's been talking about vulnerability forever, but now she's kind of moving towards empathy. But I'm trying to become a student. That's the first thing for me is a student of empathy. But I'm also then I'm watching my friends who I feel like are really good at it or the best in the world at it. And then I'm saying, okay, tell me how you did that.
Yeah, right.
Like, tell me what you were thinking in that moment. Because some of us, I'm an Enneagram 3. I'm an ENTJ. I'm a D and I on the disc. So I have the ability to run over people without even realizing I did in the pursuit of Mount Everest. And so I know this about myself, which now makes me aware of it. And therefore, I have to be more intentional about stopping and saying, okay, I'm going to have empathy. I'm going to think about what is it like to be in their shoes right now, being led by me. And before, again, when I was younger, I wouldn't have thought that. I would just thought, your job is to follow me because I'm going to Mount Everest. And I'll take you with me, and I don't care if you're in the ditch sucking your thumb and crying. That's bad leadership.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, my job is to have the perspective that says, I'm going to lead you like you want to be led. Not like I want to be led or I want to lead you. That's a different mindset for me when it comes to empathy as a leader.
Yeah, great answer. Good answer. Thank you.
You guys good? Another question?
One of the things that great leaders are great change agents. How do you think it's best? How would you best equip a team for upcoming change in a situation that you are involved in?
Give me an example. Are you thinking of something specific? Yes. Okay, I love this. I love when we go specific. No, let's go specific. Like, tell me what's going on with you on the team. Two babies. Okay, that's change. Yeah. Are you having two babies at once? Like twins? Okay. I was just making sure, like we didn't have like a scientific experiment here happening that, like, okay. Yeah. Yep. And what role are you stepping out of to once oversee the coffee shop? Okay. And so here's the situation. You're stepping out. You're going to be gone for what? 3 months? Yeah. This is a change moment. So the question is how do you prepare whoever's? Yeah. Who's on your team, by the way? Is this like the crew here sitting at this table? Yeah, so the coffee team that is now going to have to like step up, right? So, well, a couple things. One is that your job is now to prepare them for this 3-month window of change, right? That's obvious. The other thing is that you're going to now give them permission to actually step up. So don't feel like sometimes when we are the leader who's stepping out or we've got something else, we create, without even knowing it, this mindset that says, okay, don't get a little skippy on me and start thinking you're in charge. Compared to, I would say just the opposite. I would say to the team, hey, I'm going to be out for 3 months. This is your chance to shine. In fact, I want to come back and not even be needed anymore. And then you laugh like really uncomfortably right there, right? That was an uncomfortable laugh, like, oh, great, Brad, that's cool. No, but again, part of our job as a leader is to replace ourselves. That's right. This is true. Every role in this church staff culture, every person on the team should be thinking, who is going to replace me? Not because you need another job or you're going somewhere else, but because when we start a culture that says we raise up leaders, then I start to think, I'm going to raise somebody up so I can go do something else. And if that means at some point I get kicked out, then that's okay, right? But we always are thinking, who's going to be the person that now steps in and does my job better than I ever did it? So it's the student pastor. It's the kids ministry coordinator. It's the production director. It's the coffee shop. So you're thinking, how do I let them shine? How do I give them permission to run way faster? So I would be saying this, guys, while I'm gone, think how we can do this better. How can we innovate to actually make the experience of coffee on a weekend or during the week a better experience? What are some things that we've been thinking about that we haven't done in terms of like just starting with the blank slate? And then the other thing is, again, a lot of leaders, when they go off for 3 months, they want to feel like somebody needs them. And I would just say, don't call me. Do not call me. Because this is what happens when we go away. We sort of under the radar are thinking, I hope somebody just validates that I'm important. Compared to, no, I'm going to let them make the decisions. And this is bad news and good news about leadership, is when we go away on sabbatical, or we go away for 6 months, or we have that window, we come back and we're like, wait, things are better. And I wasn't here. What does that say? It doesn't say you're a bad leader. It just says that now we've got a culture that says we empower people. And we actually let them run. And when I come back, when you come back, you're going to look around and go, this is way better. This is awesome, right? Compared to, hold on, you guys took way too much opportunity here. We gotta dial this thing back. You took way too many steps. In fact, I'm a little like offended right now because you made this better than it was when I was here, right? And that's our tendency sometimes. We just have to know that and then lean into it.
So you mentioned young leaders gain credibility through completion. It's something you deal with validation. How would you say you would recommend not jumping the gun and superseding authority, moving that concept to completion?
Yes.
And not just going ahead, getting everything done. Everything is like, I never told you that. You totally went way too hard.
Yes. Good question. By the way, are you thinking of a specific example?
No, not really.
Oh, come on. I want it to be the example that, like, that person sitting next to you, too. That'd be even better. Yeah.
I'm an Enneagram 8, so I would do everything.
Yeah.
I would be the pioneer. I would leave it up.
Yep.
That's my struggle. So how do I?
By the way, that was a humble brag right there. Oh, I'm the Enneagram 8. I do everything, I caught you in that one. Yeah. I caught you in that one. I mean, it's my lot in life. I just get everything done. Like at the end of the day, like. So I hear that's a really good question. The tension between how much anticipation and initiative do I take, compared to how much do I not lean in. I would say this is a culture thing, and every culture is different. Every organization is different. And I would, again, I think I'm going to speak on behalf of those who are the they in the organization at Calvary, right? You know who they is. They are the people who go in the mahogany room where their smoke comes out at some point, and they come out, and then all of a sudden it's like, this is the vision. And I'm saying that with incredible amount of respect. But there's always a they. There's always a they in every organization. Most of the theys in every church I know, they want you to lean in more, not less. So let's just assume that you have permission. Again, now it's on you. The responsibility is now on you. So now you're responsible, which means if you take initiative, you better make sure you've done your homework. Don't be the knucklehead who says, well, somebody told me I just needed to start making decisions. Again, going back to what I said earlier, a $20,000 decision that you don't have any experience, know-how, authority, you haven't done any homework, you don't have any insight, you have no discernment, you have no wisdom, right? And you're just like, oh, I'm just going to make it because somebody told me I should make it. That's stupid. Don't be dumb. Don't pay the dumb tax. But, let's go the other direction. And we can all think of examples. A $200 decision, here, let me give you an example for me. In my church, I'm not on staff. I have no role. I have no authority. I am not a member of the staff. I'm the best kind of staff. I pay to be on staff. You know what that means, right? Yeah. I'm an investor in the house. So I don't have any job. I don't have any title. But my mindset is I walk around like my pastor, Louis Giglio. I walk around with his perspective, his eyes and ears and heart and vision. And so I don't walk around and go, I think we need to totally change up the way we're doing connection after the gathering. I don't say that. But what I do say is I've noticed that there are some people who are getting lost when they're trying to make it to the connection room. And now I'm going to go figure out a way to make sure our door holders are actually stopping and connecting with them, saying, are you going to the right place? So that's a program decision that somebody is responsible for on the team, the person who leads the door holders on our team. But I'm not going to I got to go ask Jody, who runs door holders, if I can give permission to some people to actually make sure the process and the flow into that room is appropriate. I'm just going to go do it, right? Nobody gave me permission to do that. I'm just going to take the initiative. That's a very easy thing for me to find that I know, again, I'm walking around with the eyes and the ears of the people who are responsible for those things and going, well, they would say that if they're sitting here watching it. So I'm going to do that. But I'm not going to go, well, we need to totally change the way we do music on Sunday. Christian Stanfield, you stink. In fact, I got another worship leader here. It's ready to go, and I'm going to leverage my authority, right? We're not going to do those kind of things. So it's smart. And some of us lean more. Mr. Enneagram 8, you're going to lean more towards making something, towards saying, I'm going to go do it. Some of us in the room are Enneagram 6s, just as an example. You know what a 6 does? A 6 says, peacemaker. That's the 9, actually. A 6 says, I like conformity. I don't like change. I don't want to create confrontation. So that person is going to always lean the other direction. And so the more self-aware we are, the more we know, you're going to have to pipe down a little bit, Skippy, right? That's the way I am, right? So I know now, because I'm leading myself well and I'm self-aware, that I'm going to probably have tendencies. And so I'm going to give people permission to say to me, okay, hold on a second. And that's where I have to, with my leader, because they're going to hear about it, right? In fact, you probably had a moment. We're using you as a guinea pig. You probably had a moment in the last year where your leader probably was like, oh gosh, what's your name? Nick? Yeah, your leader's like, oh my gosh, Nick, seriously? Would you stop making decisions for people on other teams, right? Exactly. But so this is so important as a culture, which is now Nick's job as part of the team is to be so self-aware that you are now going to give permission to your leader, and you're going to say, hey, okay, this is the Nick part of the one-on-one meeting where I say, tell me the things that are driving you crazy. Compared to that leader trying to figure out, how do I weave in that you're driving me crazy right now? Your job is to, leading up, your job is to say, I'm going to make it really easy for you to lead me. I'm going to make it really easy for you to lead me, even though I am like a racehorse, right? Some people are really easy to lead. Some people are really hard to lead. People who are really hard to lead, though, many times bring the greatest value. We just got to figure out how we lead them, and part of their job is to now help us as their leader actually be able to lead them better. But it comes back to, tell me what I'm doing. Tell me the things that frustrate me or frustrate you about me as being on your team. When that starts happening, you're making your leader better because you're automatically just making that awkward conversation way easier to have. Most of us don't like those awkward conversations. Some of us do. You do, Nick. You're an 8. You're a challenger, right? You're like, I love awkwardness and confrontation all the time. Is this helpful, by the way? Okay, good. Because,
You talked about concept to completion.
yeah,
But with that, what's the boundary? Like, where are the boundaries in that? Even 8 here, we're like, let's get it done, let's go. But what is the boundary in not neglecting even personal life, not neglecting spiritual life, in the race of getting to the finish line?
yeah.
Where's that boundary in order for us not to burn out?
Good question. By the way, how many of you are in your 20s? 20s? What's up, 20s? Okay. I love you. You're awesome. I'm for you. I'm raising you up. Run past me further than any. Please run past me and run past all of us who are older. Please. Comma. You don't need a sabbatical. Oh, that got quiet fast. Oh, Brad, I've been here for 7 months. I'm totally burnt out. Okay, no, you're just like working. that was just a side note. Yeah, sorry. I know I've offended everybody in their 20s, so.
We're married, we're buying a house.
Yeah.
We're wanting to start a family. So I'm in my 20s, buying a house this month. What's the boundary, though, for that? Like, I don't have all the time in the world.
Yeah.
There's a boundary that my family's my priority.
Sure.
That's where, for me, it's like, I'm 20, and I want to know, like, I don't want to burn out.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And again, the sabbatical, like, hard work is just part of the equation. It doesn't mean you work hard always. There's seasons of work. Balance is overrated. Balance is not actually something that occurs. Here's my advice. Find some people in this room who are in their 2nd, 3rd, 4th quarter of life and say, what have you done? How did you navigate being in your 20s and starting a family and having like a lot of ambition and wanting to change the world, but also not wanting to flame out in their 1st quarter? The best way to understand how to navigate this is ask people who have navigated it. And it comes back to context of who you're asking, right? So this is why mentoring and finding people who are a little longer in the tooth. That's a horse phrase. Old horses, they get really long in their teeth. When somebody's in their 4th quarter, they have incredible amounts of wisdom to offer those of us who are knuckleheads in our early stage of life. But we have to approach them with the proper humility that says, I really want to learn from you. Again, going back to honor the people who've gone before you. And this is why, I would love, just as one idea, you guys may already be doing this, but going back to all the 20-somethings here at Calvary, what if we matched up every 20-something in our church, not just on staff, but every 20-something with somebody who is, 50 to 70, and said they're going to be like your life coach in some ways. Grandparents, great outlet for wisdom like this. So I'm not going to give it to you because I think you should get it from people who are closest to you and understand context. But don't, there is no cookie cutter answer. That's why I'm not avoiding the question, but balance is not something that is in a book. You just have to figure it out as you're going. We had a question over here. By the way, the quartet, you guys, it felt like a little bit of a barbershop feel. That was strong. I was like, man, this is strong harmonies going on. I don't know if y'all do that a lot in terms of just scaled down, but that was really good.
Is it our responsibility to hold our leader or leaders accountable? And if so, how?
Okay, specific example. Give me one. Oh, come on. Talk on behalf of a friend.
What
Talk on behalf of a friend.
Another example, maybe a scenario where a leader had made a decision.
Okay, give me the scenario. Yep. It's all right.
A leader's made a decision, and you and your team feel strongly that decision maybe wasn't the right thing to do. How do you approach that? And maybe you feel it's a wrong decision, a trivial decision, you're right or it's wrong. You feel it's a wrong decision. How do you approach that accountability?
What was the wrong decision? No, that's important though to the context of the question. I mean, it's like the wrong decision was, we decided to not use. We decided that we were going to buy a different kind of microphone compared to we have a new theological persuasion. Those are two different like scenarios.
Right, it's like a trivial decision versus
Yeah, so let me give you just a thought, and then maybe this will be helpful. First of all, my job as that leader is to include you as much as possible. Brought in means bought in. That's one of the fill in the blanks later. But like when I feel like I'm part of the conversation, even if I don't agree with the decision, I automatically will own that decision more compared to, oh, they just told me. Oh, it just got sent down from, the Holy of Holies. Nobody asked my opinion, right? So the more we get brought in, the better we will be able to own the decision. Secondly, trust. We're going to talk about this later, but it's a precursor. Trust is the currency. So if I'm in an organization and with a team that trust is our foundation, and I know we're for each other, then a disagreement is simply just good tension. If I'm in an organization where trust is not fundamental, think politics. Politics, the foundation of political engagement is not trust. It's distrust. So therefore, if you make a decision that I don't agree with, then I'm against you. Compared to in trust foundational organizations, if you make a decision I don't agree with, I know you're still for me. You just made a different decision. And I'm willing to go with you because we trust each other. So that has to be paramount. That's foundational. But there's going to be a lot of things that the leader who leads you, you're going to disagree with in terms of a decision that gets made. That's part of being on a team. Otherwise, go do your own thing. Like, we're never going, unity is not that we have consensus. Unity is that we're actually like tuning our fork to the same note. That's unity. But unity is not that every time we make a decision that everybody's going to agree with that. You know what happens when that's true in an organization? No decisions ever get made. Ever. Because it's like, well, we got one person holding out. Think of the churches in America who have a consensus building mindset when the way they make big decisions. And it's like, well, we still got that one person. And nothing is happening. So we're never going to have full agreement on a team, in a culture. But it goes back to, well, what are we for each other? Do we trust each other? Did that give insight? Or by the way, we did move into a new bucket. So just to remind, I'm sorry, we had adaptability, we had curiosity, we had execution, chief execution officer, right? And now we're in, I would say, a standard bearer. Standard bearer. Standard bearer, B-E-A-R-E-R, standard bearer. So the next fill in the blank after be the leader you wish you had is thank you. That's leading up right there. That's leading up. The Grand Poobah grabbing me coffee. That's honor. Set a standard of excellence that scares the daylights out of you. So this is the premise that you are in charge of your own development. Yeah, exactly. This is good news. Some of you, it's really good news because you're like, I want to run. I want to get better. I want to improve. The next fill in the blank is burn the handbook. By the way, burn the handbook. Is there a handbook here at Calvary? Who's my HR person, by the way? Oh, she's on vacation. Let's burn the handbook. Burn the handbook. Mark is like, no. What'd you say, Mark? Thank you. Thank you for the thorough and complete handbook. Yes. So I love handbooks. I love standard operating procedure. I'm all about the handbook that's on your shelf in your office or cube or somewhere. You haven't looked at it since you got hired, some of you. My point is this. I don't need a handbook, or I don't want you to look at your handbook as your standard creator. You want to always think, how am I exceeding the handbook? This is when it gets fun. The handbook sets a standard that now my job as a leader is to exceed it, always. So whatever that standard is, and again, I want our culture to have a standard of excellence, but I want your personal standard of excellence to be higher. That's the next level of, again, leading up, is that as now my boss never will have to have a conversation with me about something in the handbook, whether it's being on time, whatever the issue is, because you're always exceeding it. And this is going back to, do I burn out? No, you're not burning out, but what you are saying is that I'm going to pursue being the best possible part of this team that I can be. And if you do that, then you're always going to exceed the standard that's been put in front of you. And when we start exceeding standards, this is when it gets fun, because now there's a little bit of competition in a good way among the staff and culture and teams and people on the team of, let's keep raising it. You just raise me, so I'll raise you. You just raise me, I'll raise you. That's when it gets fun. Compare going the other way, and some of us have been in organizations where everybody was doing the minimum amount required. I mean, I will not throw any denominations under the bus because I love denominations. But I've been in some headquarters recently of denominations. And the mindset among people in that denominational headquarter with lots of like leather, lots of rooms, lots of stories, like levels, stairs, stories. But the standard was, if they were honest, it was, I'm just really trying to get to retirement. I don't really care anymore. I'm just going to do whatever I have to do to not get what? Fired. Really? That's your mindset now. Is you're just going to do everything in your power to make sure you don't get canned. Boy, that is lame. I don't want to be that leader. Because at that point, I would be better to say to people I work for, hey, listen, I need to get off the bus. I need to go find a different bus. And this is the difference between organizations who are trying to just survive or make it, or staff people who are just trying to get by to make sure, again, I don't get canned, compared to, oh, you're so valuable. Your standard is so high. Like your dreams and inspiration and vision is so strong that I don't want to hold you back. That's the kind of leader I want you to be. So burn the handbook. I mean, literally, like light it on fire. We'll find you another one. As teams, like do a little campfire, burn the handbook. We'll get you one more. Crush your assignment. I get to say these things and I get to get out of here. And you guys are like, Brad, we're left. Thank you for leaving us with like, really? We're going to burn the handbook? Crush your assignment. Your now gives opportunity for the next. So I know, because I've been around you. Some of you are like, listen, I mean, I love Pastor Skip and Nate and other communicators, Linya. I love all of our teachers on the team here at Calvary. But if I'm honest, I'm really better than they are. I mean, let's be real. Like at some point, I will be the great communicator of the scriptures to a new generation. That's awesome. But right now, what I need you to do is I need you to go crush the role you have. I know there's dreams on you. I know, again, you're going to be the next great worship leader and Chris Tomlin and et cetera will be showing up to your feet, asking you to write a song for them. But right now, what I need you to do is I need you to go crush it with the kids ministry. Your now gives opportunity for your next. The faithfulness you have to this season is the opportunity that will give you the runway for the next season. Don't get caught thinking that you're stuck in a season that God's not using. And you might just stay there forever. And if true, faithfulness is a scorecard in the kingdom. I mean, that is a biblical definition of what it looks like to say, have this saying, well done, good and faithful servant. But again, some of you have something in you that you feel like hasn't been birthed yet. Give it time to crock pot. You don't need to microwave to the next level. You need to crock pot in your current season of assignment. I promise you, if you crush this season, people will notice. You'll have people knocking on the door, knocking on you, tapping you on the shoulder, saying, "There's more. There's more for you." But this is the way you lead up. Okay, let's move to another bucket here, and I'm gonna call this: you are a CCO, a Chief Culture Officer. And this is true about all the things we've been saying, but the mindset that you actually are as much about creating culture as anybody else is a true statement. Culture making and culture shaping is your responsibility. So culture making and culture shaping is on all of us. And there are things that get handed down to us. Again, the way we do things. That's what culture is, the way we operate, the way we do things. But you're as much a part of this as anyone. In fact, let me say the next one, and then I'll get to my point. Here's two things I want you to do as a culture shaper. Celebrate often and remove the drama. Celebrate often, remove the drama. If you just do those, there's many more, but if you just do those two things, you're going to create culture that we all want to be part of. Going back to, you're a problem solver. You are a killer of drama. You're a chief drama killer. When you find it, you absolutely just take it out. I don't care if you karate chop it. I don't care if you like shoot it in the head. But your job when you find drama or things that don't feel like we're creating an empowering environment here is you stop it. You don't think, well, somebody else's job is to deal with that. No, it's your job. And you might be the friend at that point that everybody doesn't want to be around. But that's, again, when we own culture building, all of us, all of a sudden, all those things get removed. So you're a chief drama killer. Build the culture you want to be part of. This is a true statement. If you don't, and this is not just about liking something. Let me be clear on that. Some of you don't like some things, but that's just part of like being in an environment where you're part of a team. But building the culture you want to be part of means that I have the ability to actually create the environment that I want to work in. Cultures bubble up as well as get pushed down. Cultures bubble up. You guys, Chick-fil-A, that is a culture that bubbles from the bottom to the top, from the top to the bottom. I'm going to rock them while I still got them. Anybody know that line from 90s rap? Nobody, okay. You're all Christians, yeah, so. Chick-fil-A, what is it that they say when you leave the drive-thru? That's a bubble up. Dan Cathy and his team at the corporate office didn't come up with that. That was created actually by Howard Schultze, who used to run Ritz-Carlton, but somebody in the organization at Chick-fil-A heard him saying it. They bubbled it back up to the Holy of Holies room, and all of a sudden, like the my pleasure got infiltrated throughout the culture of Chick-fil-A. There are all kinds of innovations. I mean, if you ever want to do a deep dive in an innovative culture, like take a trip to Atlanta, I'll connect you. Go down and just hang out at the Chick-fil-A headquarters. It will inspire you beyond measure. They are doing so many things, and they have an innovation center. And there's all kinds of things that they're brewing up and thinking up. And I mean, they're so far ahead of every other fast food chain with innovation around drive-through and how do we do like delivery service. And but a lot of things that get permeated throughout the organization of Chick-fil-A are coming from the people at the front of the fight for them, which is, the 16-year-old sophomore who is working the drive-through and says, like, what if we did like a sliding door? I mean, we've had this like window forever that feels very cold, and what would happen if we did a sliding door? We could actually like step out and fist bump, or actually hand food. That was a bubble up because that 16-year-old was thinking, I just want to build the culture that I want to work in, and I would like to have a sliding door. And that got bubbled back up to the Holy of Holies room at Chick-fil-A, where, the Kathy family sits around and think of things, and they said, you know what, that's a great idea. So you can actually build the culture that you want to be part of. Bucket 5 and 6, I think we're on 5, actually. I think we're just on 5, because number 5 is culture, right? Sorry. Okay, let's go through them one more time. Adaptability was number 1. Be adaptable. Curiosity, number 2 bucket. Executor, number 3 bucket. Oh, hold on. We got that was where we got off. So yes, initiative, show honor, anticipator, all in the same bucket. Let's just call it anticipator bucket. Okay? And then the excellence, standard of excellence is bucket 5. Right? Standard. And then number 6 is culture builder. Are we good? Okay, sorry about that. That was confusing. I didn't put that on the pages or in the slide, so that was confusing. Okay, the next fill in the blank here. We talked about this earlier. Great organizations require trust as the foundation. Trust is the foundation. If there's trust, we know we're for each other, then we are going to have moments where we disagree, and it's okay. I'm pulling this from Pat Lencioni's book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which some of you have read. If you haven't read that, it's a really great book. But that's what he says. The foundational element of any great team and culture is that trust has to be paramount. And we assume in churches that we trust each other, but don't assume that. Like, we have to build it. We have to lean into it. We have to be intentional about it. Know they mentality. That's the next fill in the blank there. This is how you are building culture. No they mentality. No sideways energy. I helped an organization a few months ago. Well, I didn't help them because they weren't interested in actually like changing. Thank you. This organization said, Brad, come in. We got issues. We're dysfunctional. We sat for about an hour in this meeting with the executive team. This is an organization that it's a company. They're going out of business. Like they have major cash flow issues. They are a few months away from not existing. And you know what we spent an hour on? The dishwasher policy in the office, which nobody's even there right now. They're all working remote. Well, the dishwasher policy, I think that people should actually have to clean their dishes before they put them in the dishwasher. Well, that feels like everybody should just be available to do their own dishwashing. And I'm sitting there like, seriously? We're talking about this for this long? That's sideways energy. We're going to focus on something that is so inconsequential, but it feels like we can make progress on something compared to let's deal with the issues. That's the mindset that says we are willing to push in to the hard things. And no they mentality goes back to what we said earlier. Like, there is a they in every organization, but we have to understand that there is no they. It's us. You don't have a common enemy internally. You don't have a common enemy. And this is true in culture right now, leaders. Everything in our culture right now is what? It's pushed to the fringes, right? Why? Why is it that everything is pushing to the fringes? It's because it's so much easier if we all have a common enemy. That's not true in organizational life. In great organizations, teams, cultures, churches, like we have to have a mindset that says there is no they. Like, we are us. We are us. We are us. We are them. There's possessive language that we carry here. And when you find this in your volunteers, that's when it gets fun. Don't ever, when you hear your volunteers using language that's not possessive, appropriately correct them. Because you'll hear it. They'll say, well, they told me to do this, or you, right? Someone decided, and that's okay. Like, don't get mad, but help them to see, no, it's not they, it's us. Like, you're equally as much a part of the house here. You're equally as much an owner. You have equal amounts of responsibility. And when you have possessive language, that's when people want to be part of what you're creating. I mean, when we were building Catalyst, we were really intentional about this. And our volunteers would show up at a Catalyst event. And we've got thousands of people attending. We've got hundreds of volunteers. Many of you who would have shown up at a Catalyst event from all over the country, and you're showing up and you put on the t-shirt, right? And you're working the merchandise table. And you're selling, John Maxwell books and Andy Stanley DVD sets. And somebody walks up to the merchandise table at the break and says, hey, I see you're part of the Catalyst team. Tell me about this Andy Stanley DVD set. Some people would say, well, I really don't know. I mean, I'm just a volunteer. I don't. You need to go ask somebody on the team at Catalyst. I have no clue. I'm from Rehoboth Baptist in Red Dirt, Iowa. I don't know. Okay, good answer, not the best answer. Let's work on that. I wanted them to say this. Thank you very much. Let me tell you about this Andy Stanley DVD set. In fact, our team was getting together recently, and we thought this would be a great resource for you and your staff at your church to walk through. And they go, really? Like, are you on the team of Catalyst? Yep. Yeah, we decided that this would be a great thing to roll out for this event. Our approach to leadership development is that, we believe in you. Like, you see what happened there? They started using possessive language. They just put on the shirt like 7 seconds ago to work the merchandise table. But the mindset was that I'm equally as much a carrier of this movement of Catalyst as Lomenick is, who's the grand poobah. That's what I want. That's when we have that, then we've got something culture-wise. Be a micro manager. Nope. Nope. Be a micro what? Yeah. This is what every young leader I know wants. They want a micro coach. They don't want a micro manager. And every leader I know, this is what they want. A micro coach says, I'm putting my arm around you, and I'm helping you navigate things. A micromanager says, oh, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. Oh, you're not doing it right. Well, hold on. Let me get in there and do it for you. Let me do it. Okay, you just watch me now do it. A micro coach says, I'm going to help you in the process. Leaders today are starving for feedback. In fact, young leaders want feedback way more than ever I wanted it. Every young leader I know, they want feedback like every hour, compared to the old days of, okay, do my annual review. Annual reviews are not enough anymore. So a micro coach says, I'm with you, I'm going to empower you and give you opportunity, but I'm not going to stand over your shoulder and sort of appropriately or inappropriately criticize you and question your every decision. There's a difference there. So this is all, again, part of culture building. Okay, let me stop there. Any thoughts, questions? We'll keep going. We're going to finish these fill in the blanks, and then we're going to do some group discussion. Possessive, yes. Us, ours, we.
Sir, I understand that you can communicate that. You can tell people that all the time. You're like, you're a part of this team. You're one of us. You invite them to do things with you and brainstorm. And then they just don't.
They don't, yeah.
There's like, if I'm not that guy, I'm not like part of this. What are like actionable things that you can do?
Good question. What are actionable things you can do?
Make people buy in.
Yep.
Feel like they are part of the team and help them to say, no, I'm just going to do this because I'm on the team.
Yep.
I'm going to go and do this.
So the first thing is keep saying it. I know. Brad, I've said it 100 times. Well, say it another 100. Because at some point, somebody's going to go, I've never heard you actually say that. That is really insightful. I think I want to start using possessive language. And you're like, I will punch you in the throat. Right? So leaders are repeaters. Vision, culture, you have to say things over and 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 over. Language matters. Not like, are we using like appropriate language or are we cussing? That's not what I'm talking about. Language matters. So what you want to start thinking is also, what are the things that matter to us here at Calvary? Like when you talk about, what team are you on? Okay, youth. So you want to have some terms, some language, some phrases that are uniquely yours here at Calvary. And what happens when we start having language that feels like we're almost cultish, people feel like now I'm on the inside of the circle. So it's the reason I'm an OU football nut. I'm a college football nerd. I went to school at University of Oklahoma. We say boomer sooner. We don't say sooner boomer, or we don't say soon boom or boom soon. We say boomer sooner. Right? If you go to the University of Georgia, they say between the hedges. That's where they play. You don't say between the bushes. Right? And there's why? Because that creates culture. It's common language that now we are possessive around. And when people like us say things like this, it means something. And this is true when you find organizations and teams that are incredibly attractive, you find language that matters. I mean, again, I'll give you the example of my church. The first time I did the giving time, and we call it giving time. And the first time I said, you want me to do the offering? They were like, we don't say offering. Not because we don't think it's a bad term, but we say things appropriately for our team and our culture here at Passion City Church. So I got sent to the principal's office. And I got Brad Jones. He was like, listen, before you do the giving time, I need you to try out. I'm like, Brad, like I stand on stages and do things with a microphone. He's like, I don't care. I don't care who you are. Like, you're going to try out like everybody else. Okay. So I do my thing. I do the giving time, try out. I'm like, nailed it. And he's got this whole list. He says, come back here. And all these things I had said that I didn't realize I had said. And he said, okay, we don't use that we don't use that wording here. We use this wording. And at first I was sort of annoyed. It's like, really? Like, we're that specific? Yes, because language matters. So I don't know if there is a vocabulary or glossary that the student ministry might want to have in place, or things that Calvary says that are specific to this house. But that's the thing that we want to make sure we're leaning into, is what are the things that make us really specific here? What are the things that allow us to build culture so that now it starts to permeate into our teams? And volunteers never want, they show up like they want to be a volunteer, but they're asking you to ask them to be more than that. So what you want to say to them is, listen, I'm going to make you such a possessive owner of this that you're going to look back at me and go, really? You want me to carry that much? Because people, they're starving to feel like they're connected to something. So don't let the volunteer mindset be such that, well, I just checked it off. compared to, I'm going to give you the keys to the kingdom, right? And that everybody goes, that's scary, that's risky. Well, I think that's what people want, though. We want them to feel like they're owners in the house. Keep going. That was a good lead-in. The next bucket is ownership mentality. That was a good transition point. So the bucket here is ownership mindset. See, hear, and think like you're the leader at the top. See, hear, and think like you're the leader at the top. You don't have the job description. You don't have the hierarchical influence. You don't have anything that says you should. However, you're going to walk around with the mindset, the eyes, ears, heart, soul, like you're in charge. Brad, I can't make that decision. Well, maybe not, but you can see something that needs to change, and then you can figure out the best way to appropriately bring that change to the team. That's the mindset, right? And again, guys, we know the example. If I see a piece of trash, the ownership mentality says to do what? Hello. That's obvious, right? Because that's the way the owner walks around. When you come to my house, the way I treat you in my house is different than the way I treat you at Starbucks. Well, why is that? It's because this is my house. I own this house. Therefore, now I'm gonna greet you. I'm gonna walk you in. I'm gonna make things obvious. I'm gonna tell you where the bathroom is. I'm gonna ask you if you want another drink. I'm gonna tell you where to sit down. Like, we treat people different when we have an ownership mindset. The owner of the Chick-fil-A thinks about the way the drive-thru is working different than the person who is simply working the fry section. The fry section is I'm going to crush the fries. I'm going to be the best fry guy ever. But the owner walks in and thinks, how are we creating an experience here? That's the difference. It's ownership mentality. Bought in means brought in. That was what we talked about earlier. Bought in means brought in. And an ownership mindset says, throughout the organization, we're gonna have the perspective that says we want people to feel the weight of decisions we make. Now, not always will you agree with the decision, but we still have the mindset that says, as much as possible, we're going to allow people to feel the weight of the decision. What's rewarded gets repeated. What's rewarded gets repeated. What's rewarded gets repeated. What's rewarded gets repeated. If you want to change behavior, any of you who have kids, this is true. Whatever you reward, it's going to come back. I mean, as a horse trainer, we always said in the horse world, make the right thing really easy to do and make the incorrect thing really hard. That's pretty obvious. Because we're trying to reward the things that we want that horse to do. So when you think about, again, teams, culture, the environment that we're creating here, organizations get the results that they've been systemized to get, whether good or bad. So if the reward metrics and the way that we're pushing people towards is the wrong way, let's change it. Vision, and this one's gonna make you think, I hope. Vision is articulated from the top, validated in the middle, and believed at the bottom. So you are a vision validator. Most of you. Most of this team, your job is validation of vision. You're chief validation officer. Because the reason that your volunteers, the reason that people who call Calvary home as a church, the reason they believe the vision is because you validate it. They know that there's a they, whether it's Pastor Skip or Nate or, it doesn't matter. There is a they that is supposed to articulate it. That's vision being cast. Our job is to then validate it to create credibility around it to the people who are looking at us going, do you really think this is true? So what our job is not is to catch it and sort of redo it and then kind of recast it. This is the reason a lot of student ministries in a lot of churches, you watch a student ministry that starts to get some energy and momentum, and then all of a sudden it's like there's a big gap, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, the senior pastor and the student pastor don't even talk to each other anymore, and now all of a sudden the student pastor's gone, and they started something new. What happened? Many times it's because that student pastor, they didn't validate the vision that was being articulated. They somewhat validated it, but they took it and sort of redid it and then said, again, common enemy, now we're like going to be the rebels that take on, right? And over time, that chasm just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew. So our job is to, again, be vision validators, because people in the house here at Calvary, they know that this table has to say it, but they want to see it in you. They want to, again, get it validated from you, because you are now the credibility for that vision. And if you don't validate it, then they won't believe it. If you don't believe in it, they won't follow it. Does that make sense? You're validators. Information, innovation, ideas, influence, all of this, it has to flow up, down, and across. Up, down, and across. Again, go back to the Chick-fil-A example. The 16-year-old at the drive-thru saying sliding doors. That's an idea that gets pushed up, right? So there's going to be ideas, information that move across, up, and down in an organization. It shouldn't only flow down. It has to flow back up. Anybody in the military that you served? Yeah. A few of you? Yeah. And this, I mean, I love the military, but this doesn't happen in the military. You're shaking your head like it doesn't happen. Everything flows what? Top down. So you never bubble things back up. But this team, this culture here, like we have the potential and the ability to bubble things back up. It should flow up, down, and across. Okay, a thought there, a question? Otherwise, we got 5 more, and then we're going to do some group discussion. Matt's on it. Janae.
Oh, I don't like that. Okay.
You got the mic now.
Okay, so I'm going back to the brought in means bought in. I think if they're bought in, it's easy to bring them in. But when you bring them in and they're not bought in, like when you bring people on, are they bought in and so therefore you bring them in? Or
That's a good question.
Vice versa?
Do you start with them being bought in, or do you get them bought in by bringing them in?
How do you get them to be bought in? Because they didn't show up because they were bought in, but you brought them in because maybe you saw a gifting or something that your team could benefit from.
Yeah.
It's
a good question. I would say this, especially around, let's just assume that they're not bought in, or we're trying to help them get bought in by bringing them in. And so much of leadership is modeling. So the idea that I'm bringing them in means that I'm letting them sit at the table, table in parentheses, like figuratively and literally. I'm letting them sit at the table in order to watch how we make a decision, or how we talk about this topic, or how we figure out the choices we're going to do for our 3 songs coming up, and that's a modeling thing. So what I can't necessarily, this is a challenge for a lot of young leaders, and I'm putting that in parentheses. Next generation leaders, innovative leaders. They think, well, if I'm now in the room, if I'm now sitting at the table, I'm going to bring my ideas because you've allowed me to get at the Holy of Holies table. Well, what happens if your ideas stink? Again, what are we built on? Trust. So we don't think you stink. I just think your idea stinks. So are you now willing to play at the same level in the game that we play at, which is the best idea wins. You know, we're gonna fight for our ideas. We're gonna create a culture that there is tension and it's healthy and it's good because we believe the best in each other. So if you get brought to that table, now you can't walk away after one time and go, well, they didn't listen, so I'm out. That's you have to walk in and have the same mindset that says, okay, I'm going to figure out what the rules of engagement are, and now be willing to play that game in an appropriate way. But the biggest thing that we sometimes do as leaders is we let people come sit at the table, and then we start again trying to build consensus. And my job as a leader is to say, okay, I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to hear from you, team. Give me some thoughts. Give me some thoughts. Okay, Nate, what do you think? Great. And then my job then at some point is to make the decision as the leader. And if we're built on trust, then, hey, thank you for the input. But now I'm going to go make the decision. Now, everybody's got to be okay with that. But we can't have a culture that says, I'm going to bring you in, and now I'm going to listen to your idea, and everybody has a great idea, and everybody's idea is the best idea we've ever heard. So then what happens? Nothing. It's equally as bad to go that direction. We have to find the messy middle. The messy middle is where every great leader exists, which is, again, you're smart. You figure it out. You ask for feedback. You ask for input. And you say, you know what? This is great stuff, team. You know, here's the decision we're going to go with. Now let's move forward. Are we all good with that? We're going to walk out of here and we're going to be for each other, right? We're in. Like, you're not going to go do the holy of holy huddle, gossip sideways energy track, right? Let's go. That's the permission mindset, brought in, bought in culture we want to try to create. And it's hard. Like, this is why leadership is hard. It's way easier to go one way or the other. The messy middle is where most great things happen. Okay? Where'd we leave off? Yes, push blank. Okay, here. This is now around clarity. You already asked us a question. Sorry, you've been removed from the question asking.
Sorry, I'm kind of over here on the edge, so it's hard to see me. I am the kind of person, I tend to micromanage. I want to see something through, but I want to see it through. I very much have issues with control.
That was a humble brag, by the way, but we're okay with that.
How does a leader establish trust with their team, making them feel empowered to make their own decisions, particularly if the leader is someone who, yes, they want to see the team succeed, but they feel like they have to be a part of it?
Good question. So the number one thing, if you have tendencies to micromanage, all of us raise our hands, those of us who have tendencies to micromanage. I do. I want it my way, and I want it right now. In fact, I can do it better. Here's what I have to always be willing to do, is I have to ask the question, what do you think? How would you do this? How should we do this? What do you think? How would you design that? What would you do if you were in my shoes? I have to fight to ask that question. Because otherwise, my tendency is I'll just go do it because I know it's going to be great. I mean, humble brag. Like, I know I have a standard and I'm going to go do it. But empowerment always says that it won't necessarily be the way I want it. And I'm okay with that. Now, what I can't be okay with is if the standard is less, right? So my job now is to make sure the standard stays high. But when that leader who's on my team says, really, do you really want my opinion? Are you really asking me what I think? Are you really asking me, are you giving me permission to do this? Then when they say, I'm going to do it totally different, I have to be willing to let them do that. With the same standard of excellence, but I have to be able to say, you know what? Like, in fact, you went a different route to get there. And I wouldn't have done it that way, but that's what empowerment looks like. Now, again, we always have to be clear on this, guys. If you're trying to take a different path because you're out to prove something, that is inappropriate. That's all of a sudden bitterness. It's like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to reveal that I'm the best thing that's ever happened to this organization, and you don't know what you're doing. You know what that's not doing? That's not honoring. Because I'm not believing the best and assuming the worst. I'm believing the worst. and thinking you're my enemy and I'm going to prove and I'm going to show you, right? So we have to approach it with that sense of, I'm going to empower you to do something in a different way than I might have done it, with the understanding that you're still for me. You're still looking at me going, Brad, I'm going to make you better. I'm going to make you shine as the leader of my team. Okay. Push. Is that where we are? Push? Yes. Push decisions out and down to the furthest levels. Those closest to the problem should solve it. So this is about clarity. If I'm going to give you another bucket, I may be giving you more than 8 buckets. Is this number 7? This is the 8th. I'm going to give you 9. So we got one more. But clarity is your bucket on this one. Push decisions out. Those closest to the problem should solve it. Clarity is built through you serving as a constant feedback loop. So part of your job as leading up is you are feedback loop. Great teams, great cultures have feedback loops that are constantly moving. I'm always wanting to find the things that we need feedback on from the people closest to the area where we're trying to get the feedback, right? So if I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the parking team, I better go make sure I'm talking to the people who are out in the parking lot and get their perspective. Hey, what would you do? How would you do this different? I know, again, you probably just see yourself as a volunteer, but you are important. We want your perspective on how we make the process go differently on a weekend, right? That's allowing people closest to the problem solve it. Being unclear is being unkind. Now, this is true in feedback, but it's also true in the way we lead up and down. Nice is not part of your job description. I want you to be nice. I'm not saying don't be nice. But kind is that I'm clear. So you're not nice to me if you see something in me that I need to improve in and you're not willing to tell me. That's actually you being nice, but it's not being kind. You guys are looking at me like I'm an alien right now. This is really important. And we tend to go the other direction in Christian organizations because we all want to be nice. I want to be nice. And confrontation for most of us is like, ugh, that's a cuss word. But our job as a leader is clarity. And clarity is me saying to you, listen, I love you and I'm for you. And let me tell you a couple of things that I see in you that you need to improve on. What it's not, I love you and I'm for you and you're amazing. And that's the end of the meeting. And then you're like, I wish they would leave. I'm so tired of them. They're driving me crazy. That's nice. So we don't want that to happen. Clarity is kindness, which means that I'm willing to push and make each other better because I'm for you, right? My job is to make you better. All right. Anybody have a thought on that one? That one's like always tense, and there's not a lot of amens in this part. Come on, that's good, Brad. More of that. No, it's hard.
So what's the difference from being being blunt or brutally honest?
Yes.
And being like straightforward and clear and being rude?
Okay. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
No, you know. How would you like for somebody to be honest with you?
I mean, I want the correction. I want to do better. So, I don't know. Tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Do you have an example of a time when that was not done well for you, or that you either it was done to you or you did to somebody else that you were leading? I know that's on the spot. I'm so sorry. I'm just chief awkward officer.
I just know I'm a blunt person, so therefore I'm trying to find my boundary in that. But
yeah,
that's why I'm getting more outer resource here. Sometimes I can just say how it is, and it may not be the best approach, even though that's just how it is.
Yeah, and the more personal you are, the more empathy you have, the more connection you've made, the more that person knows you're for them. So if that means I have to remind them, hey, listen, I'm for you. Can we agree that I want you to get better and that you want me to get better? Can I give you some feedback? Can I be honest with you right now? Now that we should never have to say that because we should always be honest, but again, can I be honest with you right now? Hey, this is a conversation. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to surprise people with all of a sudden this left hook or right hook out of nowhere of I've got like 17 things that we need to get clear on. Because what happened is you just let it bubble and sizzle and crock pot until now it's like, listen, if you don't have that conversation, we're going to have to get really serious. Compared to I'm micro-coaching you. Micro-coaching means that when I see that in the moment, I say, hey, just a little bit of feedback. Can I give you some feedback right now? And that's constant. So I don't have to have like the really big confrontational, oh my gosh, I've been up all night sweating. I've been on my knees praying because I'm so nervous about this meeting. But that usually is where we get. Compared to, no, this is just part of who we are. We help each other get better. So again, that would be the ultimate. But if I have to walk into that hard conversation, I'm going to say, hey, this is our normal one-on-one meeting. And usually I want to be really clear about helping you get better. And one of the things that I need to talk to you about in the next 15 minutes is some things that I'm seeing in you that are concerning. And here, let me remind you, I'm for you. I believe in you. I want you on my team. But I need to make sure you understand the things that we need to get better at and that you need to get better at. And then I say those things, and I'm really clear. I'm not beating around the bush. I'm not, well, you know, like the whole praise and then criticize and praise sandwich. I'm like, no, just give me the criticize. I mean, that's the way I am. Some of you need the praise, criticize, praise sandwich. But I want somebody to be clear with me, right? So, and then when I give them that perspective or feedback, I'm going to say, okay, now, what do you think? Is that helpful? What are you seeing that I don't see? And they may say, I totally disagree. Well, we're going to have to agree to disagree, right? But this is, it's human. That's the thing. It just has to be human. And again, go back to the way you raise your kids. You don't beat around the bush with your kids. You don't. Like, so don't beat around the bush with me if I'm on your team, regardless of where I sit which seat I sit in.
It's very easy to, as a leader, especially just how businesses are, whoa, I hate that, Matt. How businesses are run.
Yeah.
It is run from the top to the bottom, most likely. It's most often. That's how I think even America, we see it. And so,
My
yes,
way or the highway.
Yeah,
right?
well, and we think very much if you're at the top, you got there because you earned it, you know, like most of the time. So it's easy from the top or when you're in a place of leadership to go, hey, you know, let me offer you some feedback and encouragement or criticism or whatever. That's easy.
Yeah.
But if you're leading from the bottom to the top, how do you properly address your employer without not necessarily being rude, but without dishonoring them? Because you're respecting that they're above you and that they have more experience than you and all these things, but you see something.
Yeah.
How does it come across not as you being dishonoring or disrespectful to someone who's gone before you and has accomplished more than you?
I think the biggest thing is if I am bringing feedback and I'm saying I want to see us get better as an organization. I'm at the bottom of the food chain, but I want to see us get better. If I bring that with the mindset that says, I really want to see us get better compared to me brown-nosing or me trying to figure out the best way for me to elevate, then that's different. And I know it because I have EQ now. And so part of the responsibility of my leader is to then see that in me and allow that to bubble up in an appropriate way. So, but I mean, again, we're smart. You guys are smart. Like, you know immediately when somebody's thinking, oh, they're just trying to like prove that they think they're right, compared to they really do value what we're doing here in such a way that they want to make things better. Those are two different things. So I've got to start there if I'm gonna bubble things back up. But at the end of the day, it comes back to this premise, guys. Do we believe 100% in making each other better? And if we're doing that, then all this stuff starts to permeate in the right direction. So let me get through the last, because I want you to have a few minutes for table time. So here we're ending on a high note. That was like, come on, Brad, that's Downer, Debbie Downer, Donnie Downer. Here's the last bucket. You're a CHO. You're a Chief Hope Officer. You are an inspiration. You are like, your job is to bring energy. So leading up means you lift others up. Be an empowerer. How do I empower people I work for? You make them better. You lift them up. You encourage them. Everybody needs encouragement. Everybody needs ego biscuits. Everybody. Ego biscuits flow up, down, and across. They're like Chick-fil-A biscuits, except just a little different. And I don't mean ego biscuits because you're trying to brown nose. I mean true, appropriate encouragement, right? Hustlers are hope dealers. So when somebody says, hey, what do you think about this hustle thing in leadership? You're like, oh yeah, there's this H3 leadership book, and one of the H's is hustle. But hustlers are hope dealers. And your job is to actually be a memory maker. You want the people you work for, your boss, every time there's that one-on-one meeting with you, it's not, oh my gosh, another one-on-one with Ted, Tammy, Teresa. Oh. You want them to think, I can't wait for that one-on-one. Because I'm going to walk out more encouraged than they are. I'm going to walk out more inspired than they are. You have the ability to be a memory maker with everyone in the organization, including your boss. So, job description, bring positive energy every single day. And some of you thrive in this. Some of you, you're like, thank you, Brad. I am coming alive right now. Because when people think of where they show up to get the Holy Spirit crack in our organization, they come to my cube. And they're like, hook me up. I need a little inspiration. Some of you need to work on this because your face is not saying what your heart is. Right? Oh, Brad, listen, I'm just a little, I'm a little bit more like of a realist. Well, bring some positive, hopeful, memory-making moments to the team. This is on our job descriptions. You're a Chief Hope Officer. This is what we are. The church is the greatest hope generator in the world. So you carry that as much as anyone else on the team. And the more you carry it, the more it permeates. And the more your volunteers are carrying it, the more they look at themselves and go, wait, I really am? Like, I have the ability to make memories and to connect people on their journey to Jesus in such a powerful way that they can't wait to come back. You got it. Okay, here's the group discussion for 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes. What is one thing at your group, at your table, what's one thing that you are most challenged by with what we talked about? And the practical side of this is, what is one thing you're going to do different? That's the better way to say this. What's the one thing you're going to do different in regards to leading up on your team? Okay? 10 minutes. Let's do that at the groups, at the tables, and then we'll have maybe a couple minutes for a little bit more Q&A before we wrap up. Good discussion, hopefully. Nate, can I ask you a question? I'm going to put you on the spot. Grab a mic somewhere. Matt's got a mic. We're gonna move towards the park, but I wanted to just give. I have a question for Nate. Two questions. One, what was the one thing for you that you feel like is sort of like bubbling up in terms of your takeaway? And then what's maybe one thing you would want to say to the team in terms of encouragement or challenge or opportunity.
I'm going to let
So-
you answer it first as the senior pastor.
Yeah, either one of you. I say Nate, but either one of you guys in terms
So
of.
what's the first question?
First question was, what was one thing for you that sort of stood out in terms of an area of opportunity for your leadership?
Clarity. Being clear is being kind. Being unclear is being unkind. That the more information a person or a group has to work with, the better they can execute. Not only execute what they're called to do, but have parameters with which to bounce around creatively in, but not go outside them so that the energy is misspent.
Good. Yeah. And then what would be one thing that you would want to emphasize from a challenge, opportunity for the team, based on what we've talked about? Because context is everything.
Okay.
And I'm saying stuff that's true across lots of cultures, but there's some things here that are very specific.
Well, what strikes me generally is the quality that is in this room is really high.
I agree.
And I mean, in all departments, creatively, the spiritual giftedness, the excitement to expend the energy in a productive way is really high. Maybe it's like post-COVID, where we've been, the harness has been on, and now we get out of the gate a little bit more, but that's part of it. But I just think that God has assembled an incredible team.
Yeah.
And I'm more excited going forward than the vision ahead of me looks better than even what I've seen in the past.
Ooh, come on. Now that's you're giving a golf clap, but that's like Phil Mickelson winning the PGA kind of clap. Yeah, for real. Because this again, where's the momentum? Where's God moving? And you guys are y'all are. I don't know what the example is, but let's just say the Patriots, right? During the glory days of the New England Patriots. I don't have a New Mexico reference. Sorry, sports analogy. Whatever that is, the dynasty, Calvary, this church is dynasty. But now you're hearing from Skip at the top of the food chain saying, I'm more excited about where we're headed than what we've done. And I'm telling you this much, I'm putting on my LinkedIn today, I'm on the team, I'm on the staff, I'm leadership in residence, because I want to be connected to where God is stirring and where things are moving. And so my final challenge or encouragement is see yourself that way. Yes. See yourself as you're part of the Big C church, but you're also on a winning team. Yeah. And there's going to be frustrations and issues and dysfunctions, and that's, again, when people are involved, things get hard. But there is more opportunity, there's more vision, there's more motivation, encouragement, excitement than perhaps has ever existed in the history of not just this church, but of this team. So
one final addendum, and that is creativity is messy. And don't be afraid of the mess. Don't allow yourself to live with a little bit of like a pile here and a pile there in the room to get to the place of creativity. You can clean that up later, but don't be afraid of it. It doesn't all have to be in a row all the time, because you need the mess sometimes for the message to get really clear.
That's good.
Leadership happens in the mess. Great things come out of the mess. Anything you want to add, Nate?
Yeah, I think I really love this idea of being a culture builder. And one thing I wrote down is I just said, do people know the culture? Because I think that we started early on, about 5 years ago, developing culture axioms to define what our culture was. Because I think something can happen in a big organization when you have so many different managers or directors. If we're not careful, we can have culture wars because each person's building their culture rather than the culture. And so you can end up having this conflict between departments because there's not a shared culture. And so I think there's this idea of repeating. You can get to that point and you're like, all right, I think I've repeated enough. But that reminder that we need to keep repeating these things. We have these culture axioms, this shared vision, this shared purpose, to continue preaching that so that we can trust that decisions will get made based on the shared culture. And so I think that sometimes when we have autonomy to make our own decisions, if we're not making those decisions within the paradigm of the culture we're created, then that's when there's frustration that happens. But if we're constantly preaching the culture and talking about the culture that we want, then we can trust the decisions can get made autonomously because there's the shared understanding of the culture that we've created and the trust is found within that circle. So I think an understanding there, and then an understanding, I think where that carries into this idea of meetings and so much more, is that we're going to, in the same way we're preaching the culture, we're going to make sure that whatever decisions are being made in those meetings, we're repeating that, so there's an understanding after those meetings that those things are going to happen because there's been a repeating of the expectations from that.
Really good. Yeah. And culture is culture is built consistently. You frame and identify culture, and then you live it out. And every time you live it out, it actually makes the culture stronger. So, and this is where, when you start creating a tuning fork for the culture here, or the team here, or the way we make decisions, or the people we hire, like all those kind of things, they now come back to culture. Culture is the defining thing. Oh, we got mic issues. Anything you want to challenge or just inspirational or opportunity for the team?
Yeah, I think for me, there's this beautiful element that we have working on a team together, where we get to voice different ideas and different opinions, but we all have the same desire, and I think that desire, each one of us working in a church, the reason we work in the church, not the marketplace, is we want to make an impact. We want to make a difference. We want to change lives. And so I think if each person, I've heard a lot of great leaders say this, if I'm as convinced that you're needed in the organization, and we're all convinced that each one of us is needed in the organization, there's this built shared trust. And so I would just say this, maybe an encouragement to each staff member, no matter how low or how high you are, to begin convincing yourself that each person on your team, each person below you and above you is needed in the organization. And that's going to create within each one of us this sense of camaraderie and family, that I'm convinced of your need. And what you do is what makes what we do important. Like what you do, what you accomplish, helps us accomplish our vision. And that's what I think that kind of shared.
By the way, my man right here, sitting behind you, were you out doing some blowing this morning? Yeah, I saw you. I was driving in, and you were blowing leaves like it was the most important assignment that's ever been done. Like, I'm not kidding. You were Hey, you're getting red. Sorry, I'm embarrassing you. But no, I just loved, like, the way you were blowing. I don't know if you were blowing or you were sucking. One of the two. Blowing. But you were blowing like you had a purpose. You weren't just, like, blowing because you had to. You were blowing because you wanted to. And it just, like, to your point, Nate, everybody matters. Their role matters. So I'll let you guys wrap up this thing, and then we'll head wherever we're going.
I just want to close on that note of importance. Something just happened a moment ago that was an illustration of this. So right toward the end of what you were saying in the last point, the sound went out. And as soon as the sound went out, Nick looked up like, my sound's out. And that statement is, that's how important you are. Making sure that we get great sound. Because this can't happen, sermons can't happen, unless somebody is doing that. And you and your team, they do a great job. But that little moment of disconnect shows every person is. Every person is to this. And when you aren't there to do it, that very important link isn't made. So That's why the we is so crucial. And that's why we believe in it. That's why we love the team. That's why collaboration is so high for us. So thanks for making sure that we get sound, lights, leaves blown, snacks, all this. Thank you for serving. Thank you for serving.
Thank you so much, Brother Brad. I'm a next steps guy, so I just think I've heard, and if I take too much liberty here, please stop me. I heard throughout your whole talk about every 3 minutes, you laced one-on-one, how important that is. And so for you who lead any other human being, whatever it takes to schedule a time for one-on-one, because that's where empathy is built. That's where you learn about the person that you're working alongside, and that's how you build camaraderie, is knowing who you're working with. So for me, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Nate, for doing that for me, because I feel like I'm a part of the team.